Hello everyone, Wardy here, and I've got a best of 5 between our red Terran bottom left, ByuN, and our blue Zerg, top right, Rogue, from the Falling Leaves Invitational playoffs. Hi, how you all doing? Welcome to the YouTube channel. So this is a bit of an interesting one. I actually casted this live on Twitch, but the whole series live on Twitch, but for the first map, I actually missed the first 6 minutes of it because I had to take a phone call. And when I got back, I was so distracted. I was a little bit flustered and stuff, and it just wasn't good at all. I actually have no idea what happened. So, I decided that this was a fun series anyway, so I decided to re-record or recast game number 1, which is obviously something I wouldn't usually do. But like I say, I kind of missed the first 5-6 minutes anyway, and the rest of it, I try to remember what was happening. I'm like, I don't think I do. Maybe it'll come to me as I cast it, but I just wanted to obviously upload a completed series, and I know everyone will be kind of mad if the first 5 minutes of the video is me just being dead silent. So, hello, welcome. Bit of an odd one today, so it's kind of a YouTube exclusive first map into a Twitch cast for the rest of the video. So I hope you do enjoy. Obviously, hit that sub and like button. You guys know the drill. I say it all the time. But it does help us out a lot, as we are definitely under pace to hit 35k by the end of the year. So if you can help, please help. Alrighty, so game number 1 here in this best of 5 series, and we've seen ByuN, I would say, probably looking best in TvZ. Out of all the matchups he's been playing lately, he looks really, really good in TvZ. His micro looks impeccable, his game plans look pretty concrete. And I think sometimes he gets caught up a little bit on early and mid game a little bit too much, instead of going into the later stages of the game and getting ready for the transition. But sometimes, that's just, he's just able to do that because, let's face it, it's freaking ByuN, and his micro is incredible, so he's really, really good. So yeah, he kind of gets, he gets away with it a lot of the time. And I was going to be seeing here a second barracks on the way up from ByuN, making this a 2-1-1 open. I don't know why I had factory on the mind, because I wanted to talk about this 2-1-1. This is obviously a ByuN classic. One of these build orders, which is very much so, I mean, you think of, if you talk to me about builds that ByuN does, I would probably first of all say 3 Racks Reaper, but the next one I would pick would probably be the 2-1-1. He really popularized this build when it came around in 2016. I think it was early 2016 or so. In April and May, it really got popular. And I remember that because it was actually one of my big breakouts as, on my stream when I went full-time. I had an amazing weekend casting Home Story Cup qualifiers, and people were really supportive and stuff. And it was one of the big moments that actually helped me to continue being a full-time streamer. And content producer, YouTube or whatever. And I remember that weekend was when we saw a lot of the Europeans really starting to adopt the 2-1-1 as well. A lot of it from Youth Thermal and so on. So yeah, we've really, this is one of these builds that's obviously been around a long time now. It's not really been that common until lately. We've seen a lot of 2 Racks openers again in TvZ. In multiple different ways as well. Sometimes we've even seen like 3cc with 2 Racks in a factory. We've seen Racks factory second Racks into like a Hellbat Marine timing. This is obviously just the vanilla 2-1-1. You get the reactor on that factory, and unless you really change it up to get very aggressive here, this is just going to be extremely, and I really mean extremely, straight up and standard. So yeah, do you see the reactor coming on the factory right now? Obviously the starport will swap over to it, and in case you're not familiar with this build, it's generally around 440, 445, 2 medevacks of 60 Marines fly across the map. They have Stimpack in tow, and that means you can actually just stim in and clean up a whole bunch of creep spread at the very least, right? If if the Zerg has a defense readied. And the reason it's so good is if you've got great micro and great multitasking, you can get so much value out of this drop that even when the Zerg defends at their absolute best, it can be difficult. At the very least, you get map control and you can put on some good pressure. Now, that's not to say this build is like, oh my god, it's so good, you should do it every time, because there are some harder counters to it. And there are absolutely ways where if you mess up the micro, you're actually horribly far behind as well. Now, what's interesting here is that Rogue actually goes into Roach Roaring early. So he gets a Roach Roaring super early on in this game, meaning that he's already kind of looking toward Roaches as a defense. Now, with a 2-1-1, Roaches, you got to make sure you've got enough of them. You cannot let things get out of control, right? You can't let... You can't just have 4 Roaches when 60 Marines show up, because then Roaches just never get stacked up in good numbers again. Roaches can be very good if you make the right amount of them and overwhelm right away, and we'll see if that happens as a few Lings get into an uncompleted wall off on the natural, and they're going to dive for the main. That's actually pretty good information. The first 2 medevacks out here. you don't actually get to see what's still over there. So it's a good idea to try and get that info, because if he'd gotten it as these Marines stim in and multiple Queens go and get down, great start for ByuN. That takes away all of the anti-air, so now the medevacs are going to go without taking any damage, and that is absolutely fantastic. Okay, well, excuse me, sorry. So I was just saying that obviously the whole idea of, as these Marines going to load back up once again, the whole idea of this setup right now is that, you know, you basically look at this and you say, okay, well, you know, if you'd gotten up here and seen the factory was already on a tech lab, then you know there's already siege tanks on the way. So that's just why I wanted to finish my point off with the Rogue Scouts. As the initial defense wasn't really that great from Rogue. You don't really lose 4 Queens to this. That's not really meant to happen. Now he's not even got the Queens to inject with, and now he's got no anti-air to push medevacs back with. The only good thing is that at least he does have roaches, which are a little bit more stable on the ground, a little bit stronger, so maybe they can hold off this Marine force even if you have no pressure on the medevacs. One of the big things about these medevacs is if the Queens target them down, obviously the medevacs can't stick around forever, because then they start getting pushed back and they have to back away or die. That doesn't really happen when you've got such a low Queen count. In the end, this is just a trade out for Lings and Roaches. Resources lost, you can see already, though, is really benefiting ByuN. 1100 in his favor, and that is really signs of a fantastic start with the 2-1-1 build. Next step, 3rd CC. Get ready for that. Obviously, 3rd CC is always very late with the 2-1-1. And from Rogue, I mean, we've still not really seen him do anything right now. I mean, with the Roaches, you've got to imagine he's got something of a plan. It's going to be 1-1, and I would not be surprised me at all if this turned into something like just 1-1 Roach Ravager and just go and try and win. Especially when you've taken damage like this early, you know, trying to hit a timing where your opponent might not have got the proper defense up might just be your best bet rather than trying to go into a longer game. Because the longer game you play with +1 missiles Roaches, the worse generally life is going to be. I mean, you could maybe argue a transition into Hydras, but even if you want, you know, even if you try and go into like Hydras and Lurkers, you're way better off having melee up... Well, maybe not melee upgrades for the Lurkers, obviously, but like melee upgrades and Ling Bane generally is just a better baseline for that, and then missile upgrades later is how you usually see it. So yeah, that's bit of a funky one to see. Roaches coming in, one of them goes down, the Marines are going to lift up and jump into the main base, and now we'll have a few Marines unloading in the upper left-hand side, going to be able to snipe this down. So this 4th base is not allowed at all. And that's obviously problematic for Rogue here, as we'll see some more Marines unloading to the right-hand side. He's just going for a lot of Roaches. I mean, obviously no 4th base, so you can't really justify building any more drones right now, but it is going to be 66 drones, a ton of Roaches, and at the very least, he's hoping to get something done around this 1-1 Roach Ravage timing. I hate this map for this. I mean, it's quicker to get across than you'd think. ByuN actually goes to the right side. Usually we talk about this left side more forward base, and you've got a couple good choke points to defend. Obviously, the idea is you're expanding towards the Zerg. This game, Rogue, ByuN sort of says, you know what, I don't want to expand towards the Zerg. He's playing Roaches. I'll kind of stay away. And I actually like this base way better defensively, because this is just the only choke point in unless you come from the low ground. To get here, you've got to go an odd way around or break down these rocks. ByuN just continues to keep a medevac of Marines on the top, a medevac of Marines on the right. And so he keeps the pressure up as well, as Rogue has a spy, a changeling in amongst these Marines, so he gets to see at least what he'll likely be attacking into. Now he sets up into a Nidus network. Okay. I mean, that's one way to spice it up a little bit. If you're stuck on this Roach Ravager, you need to try and make a play to make something happen, to make something work out for you. That's absolutely a really cool way to try and make this... I like this way more than just going with 1-1. At least you've got other options right now. As you can see, right, there's no way he breaks through here, but if you can start to pull ByuN apart a bit, maybe you give yourself some chances. So I like that he's having tools with the burrow and the tunneling claws as well. I like that Rogue has given himself tools to maybe create an answer to what ByuN is up to. I like this a lot, actually. As you see, our Roach Ravager continuing forward. Tank fire is pretty good so far. I mean, right now you're seeing the power of the Bio against this Roach Ravager when supported by siege tanks. SCVs will pull in to try and protect. There is the Nidus in the main base, which will start to get a few units out here. Tank and a few Marauders. At the same time, drops are coming down, so we'll start to see maybe some counter damage done. Some drones will start to fall. Obviously, a lot of SCVs have gone down here. The biggest part of this is that ByuN is chasing for every single Roach Ravager unit at the front. So all of that is going down. He's getting a better defense setup in the main, although some burrowed Roaches are going to go elsewhere. At this rate, he's probably going to kill the 4th base as well. I mean, I kind of felt like Rogue was all in anyway. He started +2 missiles at the start of this, but I wasn't convinced about that. I mean, the work count coming out of this right now is pretty much dead even. ByuN's actually in the lead, plus the triple mule he'll have. He's gotten rid of the Nidus in the main base as well. And now he's got one more Nidus from Rogue coming out the front. And just going to be seeing this Roach Ravager may be able to continue stacking up and pressing forward here. As his medevac leaves. This one got cleaned up pretty quick, but again, you lost the 4th base over on this side. Yeah, gonna kind of just go again, but I don't really think you've got the numbers to break this. It's a contaminate on the factory. It wasn't even building a siege tank, so yeah, maybe just still slow things down, but could be worse. Here we go. Roach Ravager going to press forward. The tank fire already looking good across the first set of Roaches. The Roaches getting in on top of this, and Bio comes from the other side. I mean, okay, the Roaches and Ravagers kind of get on top of the tanks here, but not in any real way. And ByuN picks up the first map of this best of 5. All right, well, this is kind of weird because now I'm handing off to my past self that casted the rest of this series. So enjoy the rest of the games, everyone, as ByuN starts the series with a 1-0. And yeah, enjoy game number 2 and onward. So game 2 here of ByuN and Rogue, and ByuN's 2-on-1 really put a lot of pressure on, put him into a pretty good spot. ByuN being our red Terran bottom left-hand side. As we do have in the top right, our blue Zerg Rogue. So he wanted to play Roaches. Now, Roaches can do okay against a 2-on-1, but ByuN really just got in everywhere and was really being very annoying. And because he was able to identify the Roaches early, and Rogue still kind of went for that 3-base Roach kind of all-in kind of thing, ByuN was just very well prepared. Very well set up, in a pretty comfortable position, and in general just looked very, very good overall. So pretty sure Rogue was just hard committed to the Roach style, but ByuN was very comfortable with what he was up against. The Nidus was like a nice touch to try and pull stuff out of position and maybe make it work a bit better, but yeah, ByuN handled it, and he was obviously doing really good damage across the map as well. This time, ByuN going to straight up proxy racks with a gas. So proxy racks and an early gas as well. And we have seen ByuN doing some proxy racks Reaper as of late, and that has been a fairly successful story for him when he's been proxy racks Reapering. So as Rogue gets the scout, I don't think this scout is early enough to truly deny these barracks. I don't think you can pull the SCV, pull drones to deny this, because the racks are also just very far away here, right? You know, they're all the way down over this bottom side. The drones have so much distance to run, and that's because he's going to go Reapers. Because of that, he doesn't actually really care about, you know, where these racks are. Like, this is far away from the natural, but it's very close to this jump-up position here. Rogue is not going to be seeing the 3rd barracks that starts to build, so he doesn't quite get full information that this is proxy 3 racks Reaper. He will know it's Reapers, but how many Reapers, that's information he will not quite have. He's going to be like, right now, he's like, huh? Where are the Marines? And then the first Reaper pops out. So there's going to be a bit of harassment into the main base here from ByuN to begin with, as we do have our first Reaper arriving. Now, Roach Drone goes down. I was talking about this the other day. We saw Solo playing against this build from ByuN, and Solo went for the Ling speed kind of way of dealing with this. Rogue gonna go for the Roaches right from the start. It's the other alternative way to deal with this, and basically you just get Roaches up ASAP, and then they are a much sturdier force than the Lings. The problem is you don't have as much mobility. I think against the proxy 3 racks Reaper, though, I think that's actually okay. I think that's actually a bit better, because the proxy racks Reaper doesn't have the chance to go on forever as much. I don't mind this as the first queen pops out. Obviously, one of the big things of this is trying to get those queens low on HP, get rid of potential future transfusions. As you see, Reaper's pulling back. One of them is super low, just gets away. And that's what makes ByuN so good. When you have 2 1 HP Reapers that stay alive, this build can be extremely viable. As Lings run down the ramp, they will not get much done. And now the Reapers move through the natural and up into the main. And turn back around. That is going to be a Reaper that gets picked off, though. So that Reaper will go down. Another grenade going to pop those Roaches back. So, again, keeping those Roaches at bay for the moment. We'll just come back around. Roaches coming through. Ravager pops out. A couple extra Roaches coming in. Obviously, 3 Reapers now building up time with this 3rd racks finished up. ByuN hasn't done a lot of damage yet, right? I mean, he's forced a lot of roaches and this Ravager. The problem is because this is kind of proxy, there's definitely a big commitment to it. You know, you don't even have a wall-off back at home. He just now builds a factory. And the thing is, usually roaches coming across the map don't get a chance to against proxy Rex Reaper because, you know, the Reapers can at least kind of bop the roaches, slow them down, but these few just got off to the side. So because ByuN's not actually holding the front here, these few roaches have slipped by. He's got a feeling, doesn't he? He's got a feeling, and I actually think he might have just seen it as well. So now he knows these roaches here. This is all good because this isn't the right amount of roaches. So these Reapers are going to find the roaches. I really like this commitment from Rogue. He does find one Reaper. You're not able to fix that in time. Yeah, I like this a lot. Now, it does create space for the rest of the Roach Ravager to come through and maybe to deny a barracks. ByuN is on his way back over to try and deal with this. Let's see if he can do so as the Roach Ravager coming in. The Reaper... the rest of the Reapers coming through. First Reaper taking some shots. It will go down. So one Roach goes down. A second Roach as well. Another Reaper grenade going to bop those Roaches back. And the other Reapers continuing to come on in. Roach Ravager of Rogue continues to push those Reapers back down through the center as a couple of Roaches still in production. And we're just going to be seeing our Reapers from ByuN will turn back around up to the top side, moving in toward this natural expansion. So moving into the natural, a single Roach is here, and he's going to start to get some drones, but what is he going to do about this counterattack that's on the way? There's a lot of Roach Ravager moving across the map. I mean, 5 Roaches. He's got a bunker, he's got a starboard and a tech lab, so that's how he's going to try and deal with this. He's obviously doing a lot of drone damage himself, as these Reapers get quite a few kills. It's just this army supply of Rogue is really kind of out of control right now. Oh, he didn't pull SCVs initially. Now he gets there. The corrosive fire has to be dodged away from. It's okay. But now you start to lose SCVs. The work count was actually favorable for ByuN. Remember, his natural CC is not exactly ready to go just yet, though. If more Reapers get home, they'll get into this bunker. He will get rid of that Ravager. And this will now hold as he drops a grenade. And, this Roach just got just got access into the main. The Reaper's going to arrive back home, but... I mean, it's a lot of SCVs just lost. ByuN loses the advantage there. Drones are coming up from Rogue. And now the Banshee comes out. It will go straight across the map to try and deal some further damage. Of course, Rogue should see that Cloak is there on the way up, so he should be able to start making his way to Spore Crawlers. He builds a lair. I mean, he doesn't need it right away. Cloak's not done for another 20 seconds, but he needs to start Spore Crawlers soon. Otherwise, this Banshee is going to do so much. I mean, Rogue 100% saw this, so unless it's... I mean, he's still got an Overlord here watching this. Lair on the way, unless he just doesn't think that the Banshee's going to have Cloak in time. Okay, now he starts Spores. We're 10 seconds away from Cloak. This can still be a problem as the Reapers show up. I mean, he's going to actually get rid of a Queen here. Yeah, make that a second Queen. All of a sudden, it's only Spore Crawlers to defend against this Banshee. Doesn't even need Cloak. SCV's going down across the map as well, though. The Reapers are going to try and do what they can. Cyclone and a Banshee here to try and clean up. I mean, so many SCVs will go down. The Banshees are going to be limited because they are now Spores, and ByuN will have no further answer. That's GG, and Rogue will tie this up 1-1. Third map, as we go into the top left-hand side, we'll start up on Death Aura, as our red Terran player is going to be ByuN. Proxy Rax Reaper just did not get enough done early, and Rogue had the ability to kind of close it out. There was just no real answer for that amount of Roach Ravager.
Game paused.
As ByuN will pause up for a moment, so give this a moment or two. Yeah, back one sec, guys. As our players are good to resume, we'll wait for our referee to resume this here. And away we go.
Game resumed.
So, Rogue bottom right, ByuN top left. We go into game 3 now. And this time, it's also a funky build order. Command center first from ByuN. In the early stages, we'll see the couple of racks coming down in the main base. Getting those set up as our hatch. Gas and pool gets ready to go. And a drone just going to be popping out in a few moments' time. Overlord continuing up to the top side here. So I overload through the top side, looking for a bit of information as the tech lab comes down on the barracks of ByuN. So gets that started up, as we have a reactor on the barracks as well. So he's going to have a lot of Marines very early on. So basically kind of a 2-1-1-esque setup again. You start up stim here. You got the gas to go factory once you get the minerals. So has a similar feel to what we saw in that first game. Obviously has that power up of it being a CC first. Nobody's really been going CC first in TvZ for quite a long time. It's really kind of like a newer thing once again. We do have our Overlord continuing through the top side. And our SCV going to be popping out. So a couple of SCVs coming down, heading over to the natural. So a few SCVs rallying down there. Roach Roaring starts up from Rogue in the back of the natural as well. As you have a few Marines just coming in and picking away at this Overlord. Overlord will go down. So Overlord gets picked off. This Mule's going to drop down as well. So that's going to get mining away. Evolution Chamber is coming in from Rogue. Is a couple of extra Queens just on the way out. So a couple of extra Queens continue to come on through. Our stim pack's about halfway done from ByuN. Our starport's on the way up as well. And these other few Marines are just continuing to come into play here as our factory sets up onto the reactor. So getting that factory up onto the reactor right now. Stimpak's still coming into play, and again our other Queens all on the way out at the moment with our Overlords setting out the front, out over to the side. Carapace upgrade from Rogue sets up on the back of this natural expansion, so gets that started as a... It's the right response to a 2-1-1. When you go for a Carapace upgrade here, it's something that really allows you to stay extra defensive against these Marines, and there's going to be seeing our extra medevac's going to be popping out in a few moments. Combat shield is on the way. Just getting this up and ready to go as the extra ling is continuing through. Two medevacs are going to go boosting down the left-hand side. So they're going to go boosting down the lair on the way up from Rogue. As you have a combat shield +1 attack now on the way in. Siege tank is about to pop out from ByuN, and just going to still see these medevacs making their way down to the bottom. It's unloading here for the moment as a few of those lings in some trouble. Marines going to pull back in. The rest of the lings is going to show up. All of those lings starting to go down. The medevac's back into the center as our Baneling Nest starts up. Yeah, not much done from ByuN, right? Doesn't really get any map control. Doesn't really deny any creep. The lings are a good defense, and now Rogue is onto big old drone mode. 14 workers in production, so he's going to go right back into droning here. Building that up as our Marines come down the right-hand side. Picks off a ling. The other lings of Rogue coming around the side too. And all of these Queens still around in the center. They're about to finish up. The Baneling Nest is going to be completing. You have our couple of siege tanks to follow up with this. So this is the kind of very powerful follow-up where you get these couple siege tanks up, and again, it's that +1 carapace that's really going to help you, especially as +1 attack kicks in from ByuN. This is extremely aggressive, right? Like the one engineering bay into tanks. He's really trying to get something with this right now. He's setting up to kind of deny a fourth base, but that fourth base isn't here just yet. So actually, not really worth sieging the tanks up or anything just yet. But maybe if you can get in position toward the main. Well, Rogue's going to run into this. He needs to get rid of these Banelings. If you don't get rid of these Banes, you're in trouble. But he does get rid of a lot of them, and it's enough to force Rogue to turn it around. So Rogue's going to turn tail and scarf her out of there. As we're going to be seeing the rest of the Ling Bane going to come back in. Now the tanks are siege. A few of these Banes needs to get the Bane's target fight, and he will once more. And ByuN is finding some incredible efficiency. Oh, but the medevac gets shot down by a Spore Crawler, so he actually loses some Marines in the main base on the attempt to lift up into there. Oh, well, that's a shame, because that was like 6 Marines. Now these two are obviously abandoned on their own as well, so that was like a 10 supply loss because he just flew into a Spore Crawler. ByuN also missing out on healing when these Marines are super low right now. So missing out on that a little bit. These couple medevacs continuing through as the +1 armor upgrade comes in on the engineering bay. Siege tank still on the way from the factory. Just going to be having our army here is obviously at this point maybe getting a little bit weaker. The tanks are re-sieging as the Ling Bane comes in. Queens from the high ground as well. Medevac will save whatever Marines it can. One more tank shot gets a few more Banes, so a little bit more value at the end. Now we've got another army heading down the left side. I'm skeptical about this because there are no medevacs. Okay, sorry, there's one medevac here. I'm still not convinced because this is just Bio moving in, no medevac support. I mean, how do you get out of this if you're in trouble? Fully surrounded, medevac's not there to heal, and I think ByuN got a little bit too over-aggressive there. Another siege tank caught as well. And now ByuN's just not doing enough as Rogue makes his way into Ling Bane Hydra. He's really going to improve his composition, and ByuN is just... It just feels like ByuN really was like, you know, a dynamite that fizzled out. He was about to blow up in the face of Rogue, and then boom. He didn't actually blow up. Surprise, shock, horror. He just... Rogue handles it. He puts ByuN out, and the next thing you know, it's Rogue all over the place. And yeah, this attack on the left side might have been cool if you siege the tank on the high ground and you slowly come down here, clean creep, but ByuN was just being way too aggressive there, so a little bit of a shame. It's just going to be seeing the rest of this Marine tank army down the left-hand side. A few extra Banes will morph in. Marines at the front, Banes coming through. Tank gets sieged, and a couple of other Banelings getting picked off as well. Let's back up to this high ground, so able to pull back up there. Well, ByuN at least will keep holding this position, which is obviously quite nice. Definitely an added bonus to everything else that's going on. Thing's going to go running up to the top side. Our Marines are going to come back across and start to drop on in, so they're going to kind of just come running through. These Lings actually doing pretty well in the trade out. The Marines just don't really full HP. I actually think ByuN maybe could have, or Rogue could have turned around to fight that a little longer. Our Marines going to run in, dealing some damage. This hatchery taking a few shots. More Lings up to the top side. As our Banes and Hydras want to come in over from the right of this. Our Marines continuing to run back, and I mean, the one siege tank that was left gets cleaned up as well as Rogue just continues to push on through, and ByuN. I mean, now ByuN, you can see his macro is slipping as well, which is very unlike ByuN during these kind of scenarios. But yeah, Rogue has just gotten too much control into this game. ByuN lost all that momentum. It felt like that medevac down to the Spore Crawler was the beginning of everything going down. As the Marines come through, a Creep Tumor gets picked off. We're just going to be seeing our Lurker Den and our Hive on the way up in the main base. 8 Banelings morphing in currently. The few Lings going to run over the right-hand side. Medevac lifts up a couple Marines. Everything else from ByuN down to the south. Hydras and Banes setting up as well. A couple of these tanks will continue forward. These Banes do get turned away, chased away. The rest of this Bio army coming out down the bottom side. So this Queen gets picked up. The rest of the Ling Bane continuing to come through as well. More of these Banes trying to roll on forward there. The tanks in position as the Lings will run through. So the tanks getting fully surrounded. 2 of these Banes going down. Hydra's still trying to press forward. I mean, I think the Hydras have this controlled. There's a drop on the other side. Medevac's being shot down, and the Marines will not find much else. Try and target fire down as many drones as possible, but still not finding that much. And we are on the way to Lurkers. The second Lurkers get out here, ByuN does not have a setup to really deal with Lurkers yet. He's got a Liberator, a couple tanks. You know, it's the Ghost that you really need to start moving into. You can fight Lurkers for a while with this, but the longer you fight Lurkers with what ByuN has right now, the worse it gets. So this is absolutely a try and do something about this soon sort of scenario. As well, those siege tanks feel like they're going to go down, and everything else will probably lift and get out of there. But even still, it's more tanks going down, and one of the big things you probably need right now are the siege tanks to realistically keep this army going. Firefall's back up toward the top side. Our Ling Hydra coming through. A few more Lurkers going to morph in over on the right. Tanks are going to fire, as you're just going to see the Lings coming in for a little bit of a surround. So a few more Lings going down. Adrenal Gland setting up. +3 Carapace. Adaptive Talons. All of this continuing through as the couple of Lurkers are going to continue to pull down the right-hand side. So Medevac's continuing in. The Lurker's going to cancel up. Andrew gets picked off. Is just going to see the rest of the Marines still coming through. A couple of Marines getting picked away. Lurkers will burrow up, and again, the rest of the bio from ByuN still set on the right-hand side. Lings are going to start running in. Marine Marauder getting chased. A few SCVs and a few drones already being picked away at. The other Lings being picked away at as well. And the hatchery over on the right side gets taken down also. I'm just going to be seeing our siege tanks continue to press forward. I mean, I'm impressed with what ByuN's doing. I like the way he's approaching it. You know, the way he's sieging up tanks, the way he's getting pushes created, but he's doing all of this while on, you know, 4-ish bases. He's getting a 5th ready. I mean, he's only recently gotten a 4 base, and here come the Vipers to have a very good time abducting a bunch of the siege tanks, so getting some great value here. And ByuN's just got 5 bases as well, on his way to base 6, so that's the other issue, is that Rogue just has so much of the control on his bottom side of the map. So Rogue is controlling a lot of this. ByuN is going to try and drop into the main, which moving around and kind of, you know, being mobile against these Hydras is not necessarily a bad thing. Parasitic Bomb goes down the Medevacs. He's going to commit in, and I like it. Rogue didn't really show these units until it was a bit too late, and especially now as Medevacs are dying, it maybe becomes a bit expensive to try and fight this, although he actually does pretty well. ByuN actually going to start doing more than I thought he would. At the same time, there are Hydras across the map with some Lurkers that are getting into a position that might be difficult to break. There's a siege tank in the background as a scan comes in. More Lurkers burrow up. This bio army getting pushed back. Oh my god, the damage is huge there. Parasitic Bomb lines up on a couple of these Medevacs, and yeah, everything getting cleaned out from ByuN, but Rogue's supply is not exactly doing fantastic. He's lost 20 drones. The Liberator over here is getting even more of those drones right now, so a few extra kills at the moment. It's going to be seeing the couple of Lurkers picked off, and ByuN is going to maybe get rid of these last few Hydras on his side of the map. It's just he has lost a lot of his own stuff. His army supply is down at 27. That drop over here finally cleaned up, and now Rogue putting everything onto the offensive. Blinding Cloud on that initial siege tank just allow you to keep running in and to actually get a cleanup on it without taking the splash. Hydras from the other side. I mean, the Hydras need a little bit more support. That's the problem. These Hydras are running in. They're taking the brunt of the damage. They are fragile units. They die very quickly. It will be good enough right here at the moment to win Rogue the game, as ByuN lost control of it, and Rogue will take. And let's jump into game. Down 1 in the bottom left, our Red Terran player. Can he somehow claw this back? This is ByuN. Couple of unfortunate games in a row. I feel that, I mean, the 3 actually, but it's a choice he makes, and he didn't get enough done with it. Simple as that. Meanwhile, on the top right side, you've got the Blue Zerg Rogue, who in that last game felt like he was under all sorts of pressure. And I'm not going to say he got a lucky break, but he got a break. That Spore Crawler killed a Medevac, and it felt like that slowed down what ByuN was doing. And from there, Rogue was finally able to get the game a bit more controlled. And at that point, ByuN felt as though he fell apart a bit, because that attack on the left side, just Marine tank with 1 Medevac, like, if it's like 8 Marines in a tank and you run into creep, okay. Like, that's kind of a weird attack, but okay, at least you can evacuate the majority of stuff. But this was not 8 Marines in a tank, it was like 15 Marines in a tank. So you're running onto creep, 15 Marines, 1 tank and a Medevac, nothing sieged. I just don't see how you expect that to do anything as ByuN, and yeah, that part for me was very interesting, as we're going to go back to Reapers apparently here for ByuN in this game number 4. So a few barracks on the way down. Do you know ByuN has not been well the last couple of days? I'm not trying to make excuses or anything, guys. Just some interesting additional info. I know ByuN has been not well the last couple of days and actually gave up a couple of other tournaments. A couple of events such as the Alpha X show matches. He was meant to play a couple of those. So, yeah, that was an interesting part of it as these barracks come through. I'm not saying that that's necessarily still affecting him. I feel like we already had one player swap days today. I'm not sure. Maybe ByuN could have done the same if he wasn't feeling up to it, but I just wanted to give you guys some extra background info on the players. Maybe should have opened with that at the start of the series. He's playing... I feel like he's playing well, though. Like, he played well in Game 1. He played well in Game number 1. I feel like Game 2, whatever. Game 3, he was actually doing great. Just definitely fell apart a little bit at a certain point. Let's see if you can pull it back together for Game 4. We are building up a whole bunch of Reapers here. Yeah, he had to cancel the Alima League Monthly Finals. That's what else he had to cancel. So he cancelled an Alpha X event and the Alima League Monthly Finals. So yeah, he definitely wasn't feeling 100% this week. But like I say, like I'm pretty sure you could have maybe moved this as well if it was necessary. So I would assume he's feeling better. Just go with some fun info to get us started. This is going to be interesting because this is obviously A, Reapers at home, so not proxied. And B, it's Lings and Ling Speed instead of Roaches and Ravagers. So it's going to look very different to the other Reaper game that we saw earlier on. It goes down. A couple of Greys going down and the Queen. Taking some damage of the Lings being picked away at here. Obviously, Ling Speed will kick in soon, and that's when these Reapers are going to have to be extremely careful with how they end up fighting. And how they trade out and all of that kind of stuff. He was going to pull back for a few moments. It's that right kind of time. He just hasn't done that much damage early, right? He didn't really find that much. I mean, a couple Queens. All looking good. The Lings now have speed. As you go into the command center in the factory, you can see Rogue is going to put down the Roach Roar. And I don't mind that, just in case you continue to go up against Reapers or so. The Roach Roar definitely gives you kind of that extra layer of safety for sure. So, definitely helps out. Things back up around the top. A few more Reapers coming in. I'm just going to be seeing our extra refineries going down on that natural expansion. So, getting those up and running. And again, a few extra drones just continuing to build right now as ByuN going to get his Reapers in between these racks in the pillar. And again, still building Reapers. We'll see how long for. We did see ByuN the other day against Solar. He went for this medevac Reaper play, so he actually showed up with Reapers and 2 medevacs. But he did so much better earlier in the game when that was against Solar. So he did way better early in the game when that was the case. So I'm not convinced that this is necessarily going to work out super well. Especially now as Rogue's building Roaches, it feels like that is the correct response to how this is currently setting up. Well, 3rd CC builds in the main. Has a starport to build the 2 medevacs, and yeah, 2 medevacs this time with 16 Reapers instead of 16 Marines. A little bit different. Then gets his first tech lab down. Nice safe position. Definitely where you want to build the tech lab, right? Can't be surrounded by any units or anything. Problem is, this Ravager attack is showing up, so Rogue's not even going to sit back defensively. He's going to get aggressive against this, and I mean, starting to pick his way through the first racks. There's a bunker on the way up. I mean, this is a lot of Ravagers. I don't actually think you can hold this as ByuN. Because he's just sat back, it's not like he slowed this coming across the map or anything. The first racks gets lifted. He's now trying to build a Marauder and concussive shells, but I actually don't even know if the Marauder is that great. There's no Roaches here. It's just Ling Ravager. That's a Roach. Marauders don't do good damage against Ravagers, actually. Like, Marines are actually better. The Marauder is a bit tankier. Concussive shells gets denied anyway. Yeah. There's a Banshee on the way, though, so I mean, at some point you kind of want to go as Rogue. You don't want to wait forever, right? Here we go. Going to start running through. Let's see what he can get done. Corrosive Vile's going to hit the bunker down. Doesn't actually die, but it's not being repaired anyway, so it's going to fall. It's a lot of SCVs already down as well. Even with this Banshee popping out, there are so many units. I mean, he gets a couple of Hellions out to help, but Ravager's really helping to dispose of those, and Yeah, this Banshee is is a necessity right now, as Rogue shows up into this main base, and he's still just spamming some extra lings. The Banshee will start the cleanup here in a few moments. Not having extra lings right now definitely means these Ravagers take a little bit of extra damage, but here come the lings, and SCV is just trying to mass repair each other. Ravager count is dropping, but 26 dead workers. There are still a lot of lings streaming across the map. Obviously, it's a longer rush distance Jagannatha, so it takes a little while to get over here. As Rogue gonna now try and catch the Hellions. He gets one of them. The other will sit in the choke point. Fresh mules on the low ground being targeted too as more lings stream in. And it looks as though this is going to be it. Did the Banshee die? I apologize. The Banshee got biled down. I must have been looking just on the minimap or something as it happened. Because at the end here, I was like, well, why is the Ravagers not under attack any longer? Is the Banshee already dead at this point? No, the Banshee was about to spawn. So yeah, he got the Banshee out and he just biled it down. Sorry, I completely missed this. Yeah, he biles it down while I'm maybe looking at lings running in or so. So the Banshee actually just gets caught in biles, and that's obviously part of the ending there. GG's, and Rogue is going to take it 3-1.